like to try to talk some more about the paintings and the things you did earlier, because there's something that I think needs to be explained for the public, which has at this point a certain impression of you, and I'm not sure that it's the one that you would want them to have, although I don't think it matters to you very much. Is that true?
What?
Does it matter to you that people feel one way or another to you? I mean, you have a kind of reputation now, which is a little bit apart from what you really are, I think. And does it matter to you that this is so, that they feel one way rather than another about you?
I don't really understand. What do you mean?
Warhol said, once you got pop, you could never see a sign again the same way. And once you thought pop, you could never see America the same way again. He said, sometimes the little times you don't think are anything while they're happening turn out to be what marks a whole period of your life.
I think his philosophy of art and of life was to take a possibly unbearable and chaotic reality and pass it through the looking glass of some medium.
I think that he was an artist dealing with immediacy, intensity, vividness, power of connection, and the threat to all that comes with death. And that was a powerful narrative force in his life. He lived it whether he wanted to or not. I think the reason is that Andy was really attuned to some very large issues, despite his famous superficiality.
Warhol was born in South Oakland on Dawson Street, a neighborhood of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was the fourth child of Andrei Warhol and Julia Zavaka. Both his parents were working-class immigrants from Miko in Europe. His mother encouraged him in his interest in art.
Andy, as a little boy, was taken by his mother to Vespers, a Saturday night ceremony service, and then 3 masses on Sunday morning back to back. And they have this iconostasis, which is a grid, these screens that cover the altar and are only opened up during the communion service. So he was 8 hours a week looking at this iconostasis, a little child, taking it all in. And what he was seeing was a grid of portraits of the saints, very two-dimensional, with gold leaf backgrounds, and perhaps 9 on either side, maybe 18 altogether. I mean, which is so much like his work, especially his portraits.
Eager to nurture her youngest son's artistic gifts, Julia enrolled him at the age of 9 in a series of free art classes given by the Carnegie Museum of Art. Warhol enjoyed the classes immensely, sometimes spending hours at a time after class was over, wandering through the galleries, carefully studying each painting and sculpture. In 1949, Warhol moved to New York City and began a career in magazine illustration and advertising. During the 50s, he became famous for his whimsical ink drawings and shoe advertisements. By early 1961, Warhol is creating the first paintings that we would come to think of as his pop paintings.
Mr. Warhol, I've said what you probably think are an awful lot of pompous things about your work and what it means in the 20th century and everything. Do you agree with any of it?
Can I just answer?
Yes, you can.
Warhol said, "There's going to be a new movement, a new kind of person," he repeatedly told his friends. "And you could be that person. They always say that time changes things," he added, "but you actually have to change them yourself."
Very clearly, from the beginning of his painting career, he goes to a subject matter that's vernacular. He goes to images that appear in the press. And by early '61, Warhol was creating the first paintings that we would come to think of as pop paintings.
He was pure receptivity. He's receptive to everything, and then something happens. He chooses.
By the end of 1961, Warhol was the only member of the pop art movement whose works remain unshown. One night in early December, he outlined a situation to two close friends. "It's too late for cartoons," he said. "I've got to do something that will create a lot of impact, that will be different from Lichtenstein and Rosenquist, that will be very personal, that won't look like I'm doing exactly what they're doing. Muriel, you've got fabulous ideas. Can you give me one?" Without missing a beat, Muriel replied, "You like money," she said simply. "You should paint pictures of money." Then added almost as an afterthought, "You should paint something that everybody sees every day, that everybody recognizes, like a can of soup." It was during the 60s that Warhol began to make paintings of iconic American objects such as mushroom clouds, electric chairs, Coca-Cola bottles, celebrities such as Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley, and Marlon Brando. In 1964, Warhol made a black and white silent slow-motion film of the Empire State Building. The film was from an unchanging angle and lasted 8 hours and 5 minutes. By the end of the film, only one person remained there watching the film, and that person became a celebrity who toured the country giving talks on the event. It was in the 70s, while still making paintings, that Warhol committed himself more to making films.
Andy, why is it you're making these films?
Well, it's just easier to do. It's easier to do than painting. Well, because you just, the camera has a motor and you just turn it on and you just walk away. And it just takes all by itself.
Many of his films were static shots, without cuts, of people's faces.
I was in another movie that Andy did called The 13 Most Beautiful Boys in the World, and we were really beautiful boys too. I mean, it was Henry Gelzeller, myself, I don't know who else. And like, this was a big head close-up, telephoto lens, big head close-up, and Andy just told me the title and turned on the camera and walked away.
Maybe I could stare at the camera for 10 minutes without blinking.
He said, "There is beauty in everything, just not everybody sees it." The world fascinates me. Warhol said, "Don't think about making art, just get it done. Let everyone else decide if it's good or bad. While they are deciding, make more art." In 1984, gallerist Alexandra Aiolas commissioned Warhol to create a group of works based on Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper.